In the beginning of this week's parsha, Hashem goes to visit Avraham Avinu. Hashem is Mevaka Chayla, Avraham Avinu after the Milah. So I want to talk about a little bit about Bika Chayla, and we all know Bika Chayla is big mitzvah to come visit somebody when he's sick. There's a very interesting Gemara in the Dorim, and the Gemara says like this. Anybody who's not mevaka chayla, doesn't go visit somebody who's sick, as if he's shayfech dama, as if he kills the person, because mevaka chayla take away part of his sickness. If you mevaka chayla, you make that he lives. You are the effect, you're the goyim that makes him die. That's what the Gemara says. So my garma, what does it mean you make him, you're the effect that makes him live, that makes him die? Says the Gemara, if you can say it means that anybody goes to visit a chayla, what does it mean goyim lo sheyichya? Because you're going to daven for him. You see somebody sick, he'll daven for him that he should live. So that's why you're goyim lo sheyichya. So then the Gemara says, he should die. Someone is not mevaka chaylim, he's mispalled that he should die. He's not mispalled that he should die. So what does the Gemara mean? Ella, says the Gemara, kosh ein mevaka chayla. Anybody who is not mevaka chayla, ein mevaka shalav rachamim. By not going there, what happens is you're not asking rachamim lo sheyichya, not that he should live, but lo sheyimus, and not that he should die. That's what the Gemara says. So anybody who's not going to mevaka chayla somebody, then you're not being mevakash racham that he should leave. You're not asking Hashem that he should live, and you're not mevakash racham also that he should die. So what does that Gemara mean? So the Ran here comes with a famous pshat in the Gemara. I'd like to speak about this Ran today. The Ran says, "Nira be'einai d'hochik amar." Says that wasn't Gemara mean if you don't go visit somebody that you're not mevakash racham that he should live, and you're not mevakash racham that he should die. What does that mean? So it says like this: Nira be'einai d'hochik amar. Pa'omim, there's sometimes shetzarich levakash rachamim ala chayla sheyimois. You should ask rachamim on a sick person that he should die. Kegoin, for example, says the Ran, shemitztar hachayla b'chol yov. A person is sick, he's having a lot of pain. Suffering. A lot. And we know for sure this person is not going to live. According to normal circumstances, this person will not live. So the Ran puts that aside. Sometimes when a person is suffering, is sick and is suffering, you're supposed to daven that he should die. We'll get back to it soon. And he brings a raya from Gemara in Ksubas. The Gemara in Ksubas says that even the Chazoi Amse de Rebbe, the servant of Rebbe, the maidservant of Rebbe, saw the Al Kama Zimna Lebeis Akisei V'anach Tfilin V'kametztayin. He was trying to use the washroom and he couldn't, and he was having a lot of pain. Omra, she said, the maidservant of Rebbe said, He Ratzayin, it should be the will of Hashem. Sheichayfu al Yedim Es Atachtainim. The upper sky should force the bottom, this world. Kloimed the Limois Rebbe. The Rebbe should die. There's a whole Gemara over there that the Rebbe's Talmidim was still davening, they should live. She threw something off the roof and it distracted them for a second, and then Rebbe died. That's what the Gemara says there. Says the Ryan, you see that there is times that you're supposed to. 1 second, we'll get to that. We'll see.
It's a maid. It's not a common.
We'll see that there, so he brings a raya from the Gemara. He brings a raya from the Gemara that there are certain times that you're supposed to be mispalel. If the person is suffering, sheyimois. The person should die. That's what the Ran says. Now there is a big machlokes in the place. Could you bring a raya from the maid? The Moshe says on Tshuva, we'll see in a second. He says that if the Gemara is bringing it, the story, the Gemara is bringing it for a reason. It's a psak halacha.
If you were down for the suffering to end.
Okay, so we'll get to that.
Hashem has a choice.
Right. We'll get to that in a second. I was telling you what the Ran says and then go through all the details. The Gemara says over here that someone who's mevakeh a chayla. Someone goes to visit a sick person. He helps us tefillah fill lichyais to live. If they should tefillah yes mayelas. If you come to visit somebody, see a sick, you daven for him. It helps more if you're there. And I feel the ikale hana b'misa. Even times where the chayli has enjoyment hana from dying because he's in pain. I feel even that little hana that he could have, also you're not being nan to him if you don't go visit him. So the Ran learns the Gemara, if you don't go visit a chayli, you're not mispal loisha yichya. But loisha yamas means not most circumstances that you should live, and sometimes even the little hana you're holding back from him, they're not davening that he should die. That's what the Ran says.
So where does including a name in Rafa'enu in the Shemona Esrei come into it? Because
that's tefillah.
But
that's regular tefillah.
But
it's not b'kachayla. That's tefillah. When you're not going to be b'kachayla, you're not going to end up davening for him. But if you're davening for him and you're not there, it's also a tefillah for a chayla. So that's what the Ran says. Now, before we get,
So you don't become the mitzvah then?
if what?
If you daven by yichidus,
You're not b'kachayla. You're not b'kachayla. You could daven. Yeah, you mispal for a person is the mitzvah daven for somebody, but you're not making the mitzvah b'kachayla. So that's what the Ran says. Very famous Ran. A lot of places speak about it. And the question: could you bring a raya from Amsa the Rebbe or not? The Aruch HaShulchan brings down Lacha L'Maisa. This Ran, the Moshe brings it down in Tshuva. Shlomo Zalman brings it down in Tshuvas. The place can go. There's one place in Sicily that's Waldenberg, that's very, very strong against the Ran. We don't pass it that way. We don't see the Shulchan Aruch brings down the Ran. No one brings down the Ran. So no one brings it down. It's a raya. We don't pass it like it. And he's very, very sure there's never, ever a time that you're allowed to daven for someone that he should die. That's Sicily answer.
Whoa.
That's what he holds. Halacha l'maisa says there's never, ever a time. Now, I want to give Akdama before we get into it.
Is that because that the suffering is that they should cling to the next word to come?
That's his department. I'll tell you what department.
Huh?
We said a few times in the shir that we don't have to help somebody suffer to get rid of his.
We're not suffering.
Yeah, but even
he's doing it for himself.
Right, but I'm saying even we have to always try that other person shouldn't have pain, even though pain can be good for some people because it cleanses them. It's not our department. That's his department. But we have to always make sure the other person has no pain. So before we go into the Ran, I want to give Akdama that there are a lot of circumstances, a lot of times that happen. Yeah.
What you just said, is there an exception by a bris milah?
What do you mean?
Because there's an area that the baby should have pain. You're not allowed to remove all the pain from the baby's bris milah.
We'll get that to the Bishmus. It's not so posh that there's such an Indian.
It's okay.
It's not so posh that there's an Indian by bris milah that a baby should have pain. It's not so posh. We'll get into that a different time maybe. But I know there are some people that say that. But before we go into the Ran, there's a lot of circumstances that people know, and I can tell you a handful of things I myself know, that somebody is having a surim and the doctors wrote him off already, and they said that this person is not going to make it, and they pull out of it. So there are a lot of times that people pull out of it, and the doctor knows, I'm sure you've seen more than one situation, the doctor said, not the doctors are wrong, the could be right, this person is a write-off, he can't make it, but we know, something happens a lot of times. You daven for somebody, it's the Malam Udarach and he pulls out of it. And I say Pshat, it says in the pasuk, "V'rapo yirape," the Gemara dashes, "Mekancha nitin rishus l'rei for the rapos." But here we say that we give permission for a doctor to heal. What do you mean give permission to a doctor to heal? A person has to wash himself, and if the person knows how to take care of a person to make sure he's in good health as a doctor, you're mechuyev to go to him. What do you need rishus for? So there's a lot of pshatim said in it. I think the pashut pshat is when kanchen rishus l'rei for the rabbis means a doctor has rishus for one thing to heal. A doctor has no rishus to write off and say he's dying. That means if the doctor gives up and says apiderech hateva he's not going to make it, okay, now you step aside. Now we go to Hashem and we try to go chutz derech hateva maybe and see if we could pull the person out of it. But the doctor has the right to go ahead. I'm not going to get into this issue. It's a very complicated issue. I'm pulling the plug. A doctor has no right amongst Klal Yisrael for sure. That's the halacha. We have no right to do any ma'aser that causes death. For sure, we have no right, no matter what the situation is, and we're not getting involved in that. We're not going to get involved in that halacha of what you do, pulling the plug or resuscitating. I don't want to get involved in that. That's a whole complicated halacha. It's not for now. We're just talking about tefillah here. This year is about tefillah. Davening for a person who's about to die. should you daven or should you not daven? And if I am davening, who am I fooling? This person is not going to make it out of here. So the Akdama I want to give is that if a person, something happened to somebody, and it's a sudden thing, he had a heart attack, and he's in a coma now, he won't pull out. It wasn't a prolonged sickness, and something happened to somebody, we find a lot of times a person comes out of it. I'm not saying it happens often, it's very often. But then everyone agrees you should be mispal, the person should get better. Even if he's in pain and he's suffering. What we're talking about is a person who's at the end of his life. Now, for the past couple of years already, he's been going, and now he's at the end of his life, and he's suffering a lot. So if you daven for him, he'll live a little bit longer. There's no chance of even, I can't say this, but even that he's going to stand up and walk around again. This person's, whatever has Alzheimer's, or any machla that he has, he's not pulling out of it. So that's the case I'm talking about. I don't want to get involved in a case where a person is not a prolonged sickness and he could pull out of it. Then we have to be mispal as much as we could, because us as Jews believe that no matter how sick a person is, he could pull out of it. I'm talking about the cases of B'derech HaTeva where it's impossible for a person to pull out of it. He's already older, he's a prolonged sickness. That's what we're going to talk about today.
But this is not necessarily a coma, where the person may not be suffering at all. They're just
right, this is not something to a person suffering. Active suffering. A person's in a coma, we'll see in a second. Should he be mispal also? What should he live for? Anyway, he's not getting up. So what's the... I can't mispal sheyimois. But should I mispal that he should live longer? We'll get to that also. There's two different halachas here. One is to mispal for a person who's in pain that he should die, and one is the person's not in pain, but it's a prolonged sickness, and I'm davening for what? That he should stay longer in his bed for another couple of minutes, couple of years, whatever it is. We'll get to that also. We'll get to that in a second also. So the Akdama was that a person who's not in a prolonged sickness, a person who something happened to him, chas v'shalom, and the doctors give up on him even, still, we have to be mispal because it happens a lot of times. I know, the doctors wrote a person off, it's 7 years later and the person's walking around. That might happen recently. The person, I wasn't there, but someone told me that was a person who was a geisis. He was about to die. He was, I don't know what the lotion is, but he was really foaming from his mouth, they said. The doctor probably knows what that means. And basically, he was gone. He got up, not for a long time, for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, after he woke up, he wrote a tzavah, he took care of certain affairs they had to take care of, and then he went. Then he died, 2 weeks later. So those 2 weeks of his life was very important. Besides the fact that they still did some more mitzvahs, we'll see in a second. So I'm not talking about such a situation. I'm talking about a situation where a person is prolonged sickness. Now I want to read to you a tshuva from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. The Shlomo Zalman says like this. There's a shaila over there about a person who, I think he means a autistic kid. I think that's what he means. He says, B'derech HaTeva, that person's life, there's not much to it. You can't speak, you can't hear. That's what he's talking about over there. Autistic someone can't speak. He throws in something about hearing also.
You ever seen a severely autistic kid? They're completely out of touch with reality. They can't speak or communicate to anyone.
I mean severely, but not just in general.
Well, there's lots of autistic kids that are really mild.
Right, so it says like this. Hein emes pashut.
Autism is a spectrum.
Yeah.
It's good to hear this tshuva. I'm reading from inside. Hein amnam pashut the bar da'afakav sha'chaim shal mushutokim. I think mushutokim means autistic kids. La'ilenu ein klal chaim l'fi ha'musagim ha'pshutim shalanu. According to our musagim, I mean, it could be up here, up Shemayim, that they're accomplishing something. The chayla is very hard for him, and it's very hard for the mishpach also. It's a big strain on the family. We have a mitzvah, we have a chiyav, we have a mitzvah and a chiyav to prolong their lives as much as we could. Not just not to do anything to help them. We have to help them live. Says the B'Shleim Zalman, is a chiv to be mechal Shabbos. A person like that, who, as far as we can say, has no life, is a chiv to be mechal Shabbos. Ki inyan shel chayim, says B'Shleim Zalman. Life by us. What does life mean? Ein lanu shum kana midah. There's no measuring stick what life is. Kama limdoid es yekram v'chashivusam, to measure how much value the life has. I feel like with Torah mitzvahs, even if a Jew can't do Torah mitzvahs anymore. Shemechalin es Shabbos, says Shlomo Zalman, Gam al Zaken Chayla, a Zaken, he's a Chayla, Mokashchin, Chere, Shaita, Gomer. L'chol HaShaitas and L'chol HaDeis, this person is a Shaita, has no shackles to life anymore. V'eni yachal la'aseh shum mitzvah, he can't do any mitzvah. V'chayev him rak, the masa v'savel gadol, his life is only a headache and a big burden for the family members, amashpachtoi, v'goyim them bittul Torah mitzvahs, and it's goyim for the family a bittul Torah and mitzvahs. V'noisif l'tzaram ha'gadol rahim ozli madadali, because of it, they have to put out money for it, and it's hard for them. Afilu hachi, says Rav Shlomo Zalman, mitzvah b'gdei Yisrael l'shtadla v'lasak b'atzalasai u'lechalal olam es Shabbos. It's a mitzvah b'chal Shabbos. Even for 1 second of a life of a person who, as far as we're concerned, he has no life.
How long ago was that written?
This was written, Rav Shlomo Zalman lived close to 20 years ago.
I'm sorry?
30 years ago, I'd say it's written. Recent, yeah, very recent. And he says, this is what I'm pointing to comment to. The chayla are a lot of pain. So now we're talking about without pain. A chayla without pain, still the mitzvah chalav Shabbos. How about a chayla with pain? Ba'oifin, that the Ran says, you're allowed to daven for him sheyimois. So you have here a person who's in pain, and Shlomo Zalman says there is a head to the daven that he should die. Still, at that time, Shemavakes u'mespalo la'Hashem shachayla yamois, you're davening to Hashem that this person should die because there's so much pain. Chayiv hu le'asasek b'atzalasei u'lechalal olam es Shabbos. Haldak of Shlomo Zalman. This person, you're allowed to daven. We'll see exactly when, but you're allowed to daven he should die because there's such pain and he's never going to come out of it. He's just suffering. You're allowed to daven he should die. So Shlomo Zalman, you're allowed to daven. But you still have to be Mechal Shabbos to save his life. It's Pel Kazach. It's two separate things. If a person, you could help him an extra minute of life, you're mechuyev to do it. You could be mispalim him. You have a right to come to the daven that he should die because it's painful for him. Then Hashem could decide what he wants to do. But to also do anything that's actions, even to hold back action, that he should die, you have to be Mechal Shabbos. And then he says, very interesting, Osher Muflig, that person who has a lot of money and he has a life like he's doing mitzvahs and he's doing tzedakah, and now his house is burning down and everything, all the investments are burning down on Shabbos. He sees everything is getting lost. He says it's Osher Shabbos to put out the fire, and only it's a drabanan. Because kibur is a malach netzricha gufa, and it's only an issa d'rabbanan. You're not allowed to do that. So every person who is living a life, he has a lot of money, a lot of chushim, he's giving a lot of tzedakah, and it's burning down on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do anything to save it. You have to stand back and let it burn down. A person who's dying, he's in pain. For him, you have to mechal Shabbos. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, we don't understand what it means 1 second of a life of a person. Chaim Shal Yehudim is a second extra. Does a lot. So he's saying, even though you could be mispalel, sometimes someone should die, but maisis you can't do. You mechud mechalav to Shabbos.
Is this a prayer that the person should, God should take him, he should die, or that he should be out of his pain?
No. If God should take him, he should die. Sheyimois, that he should die.
How do we make such a judgment?
Because the way it looks, apiderech hateva, it's impossible to get out of this pain. So you want to ask for a miracle that should get out of the pain, which is doesn't happen that often. Hashem doesn't grant miracles so quickly. You have another choice. Don't grant the miracle. Just take his life. And that's easier for Hashem to listen to you. So you have a choice.
What right do you have to pray that he should be dying? Maybe it's best for him. Maybe the person wants
to have pain.
Yeah.
So we said before,
more pain, you're going to go to God.
So we said before, I have to make sure that nobody has pain. Even though pain is good for the person.
My business. Maybe I want pain.
Okay, so that's a different question.
Well, seriously,
no, that's
more pain. You go to God.
So that's a different question. If the chayla himself says he wants the pain,
right,
maybe you can't have it for him. Tell me the chayla here doesn't want the pain.
But we're applying like kind of mortal subjective criteria to something that where's the threshold? It's an individual choice by a human being to decide. I think they're at the point where.
But they're not going to make it anymore. So that's why I gave that dhamma, that if it's possible, and sometimes that a person could pull out of it, you have to continue davening for him.
But we hold that it's always possible.
No, but a person, I'll give you an example.
You say it's not normal.
I'll give you an example. So this question came to me once, Rabbi Shach, for years already, he was out of it. And it was the last few days, and he was agosis, he was going to die, and everyone was going to daven for him to live longer. Someone came over to me and says, what am I davening for? What's going to live longer, and then what? He's going to stand up and walk around? Between me and you, for Rabbi Shach at that age to stand up and walk around is more than a miracle. It never happened in history. It happened that people who was in a car accident and the doctors wrote him off, he got back to himself. That has happened. A 30, 40-year-old guy, that's happened to. But a guy's 100 years old, and he's been sick for the past 10 years, that he's going to stand up and walk around, never happened in history. So that's the cases that I'm talking. I'm not talking about cases that a person who has sickness for many years, he could be younger, and he has sickness for many years, and this never happened in history, this person will stand up and start walking around. That's the cases we're talking about.
So do you need rabbinical authority to do that, or
so the
any guy in the street decides for himself?
So Moshe says also brings down the Ran. So some place can hold you can never daven on someone should die. Never. Moshe brings down the Ran and he says, who could decide when we're holding from the time to daven to save him, to daven that he should die? So Moshe writes, since we don't know that, we never know when we cross that threshold, therefore you should never daven when someone should die. That's what Moshe says. Since we never know when we cross that threshold, you should never daven when someone should die. He says only a person who knows. Shemein tfilas mekabel ze dua lahush. Yev shel shuv lichyos. She'as tzricha elu inshel espach shesh lachoyla yisul misa. Rak b'chai gavna shel eskablu tfilas d'rabbanan shel anshe d'risenu l'shayach zeh. Only we know that our tfilas won't be in the skabel anymore, and people of today's generation don't know that. Afil l'gdei Torah. El ulai maybe lichidim. Chidim may know of this when this line changes. Different Moshe holds, even though we're passing like the Ran, but since we can't be mafkin when to draw the line, never daven that someone should die. That's what Moshe says. Now, I want to go a step further. This is a daven that someone should die. Sheyimois. How about not telling the daven he should die? Stop davening for him. I'm not going to daven Sheyimois, but this person is having Yisurim. And then, how long do you have to keep on davening for a person that should stay alive? So Bozen has a shuva on that. Very interesting shuva.
I'm really troubled by this because I don't understand. We're saying that it's easier for Hashem to take the person than, we just had an example. The guy lived for an extra 2 weeks and he changed
I didn't say it's easy
the future of a number of people.
I didn't say it's easy. Hashem could do anything.
With equal ease.
With equal ease.
Okay.
100%. Hashem could do anything. But for us to get Hashem to do it for us is harder.
So what I'm saying is that we take a position that the person should stop suffering. Right? You said it's our responsibility as best we can to make sure the person doesn't have pain.
Correct.
Is it our responsibility to decide what the solution to the pain is? Either the removal of pain and healing or death. Why is it for us to make that decision?
It's not for us, but if we know that our tefillah in order to remove the pain is something that's a ness, you're davening for a ness, basically. You're davening for a ness to happen.
You just gave this example of the guy who...
Yeah, the art needs to do happen. I'm not saying needs to don't happen, but you have a choice to daven for a ness.
And if you got it for 2 weeks...
Right.
I just heard a story about Avad Yosef, that he was told that he was going to go in for a heart operation. Right. And he asked what the percentage of that he would live. He's an older man. He said, I'll be back in 3 hours. I'll come back in 3 hours. I said, where are you going? He said, I have to go to my office, right? He was writing a tshuva for an aguna, in case he didn't get off the table, right? He wanted to make sure that it was done. Then he went back to the hospital for the operation, right? So a person, in 3 hours can change the universe.
100%.
So what is it for us to daven that person shouldn't have those 3 hours?
No, but the question is the person, we know he's not having 3 hours. far as Derech HaTeva is concerned, this person cannot have those 3 hours. He's been sick for years already, he's been out of it for years already, now he's in a lot of pain. That was my example. That's why I said, go daven in a case where a person is possible for him to come out of it. I said that we're not talking about that. You should always daven if it's possible that we have seen that it happened before, and these situations have happened. But a person who's an older person who's been sick for many years and now he's suffering, it never happened. The guy stood up and took care of things that we wanted to take care of.
But everybody at this table knows somebody who was written off. And
written off, as I said, written off at a younger age, written off when something happened, not written off when he had a sickness for 10 years and then he stood up and he walked around. That we never saw. That was my ekdama. That's why I made that ekdama. Only in such a situation. Not a situation where the doctor's giving up on somebody because of Derech HaTeva you can't live. That we know. You should still be mispal. We know people have come back. You say, I one of the Gedalim, I forgot who it was. Was it the Mitzid maybe? I forgot who it was. One of the Gedalim was very sick when he was younger. And the doctor came and checked him out and said, and wrote him off. Said he's not going to make it. And so they davened, pulled out of it.
This was Haftorah.
Yeah. He davened, he got out of it, and he a couple of years later, he was walking down the street. He bumped into the doctor and I wrote him off. The doctor was like shocked. Says, "You still here?"
No thanks to you.
So he said, "Yeah, I'm still here." So he said, "What happened?" So I'll tell you what happened. I was very sick, and I went up to Shemayim. I don't think it was true or not. I don't know if he was trying to say something to the doctor or not. And I saw a long line there. And on the line, there were a bunch of doctors. Man, I don't have anything against you. But the Gemara says,
That is.
Tayyip Shevarei from the Gehenim, right? Okay. I saw a long line of doctors. Not talking about you, man. Don't worry. and there's a long line there of doctors. And he says, Ishno, I helped you out. So he says, how did you help me out? I saw you online. So what did you do? He said, I pulled you out of the line. And I said, this guy's not a doctor. He just writes off people. Why is he on the line?
Is that a joke? That's a true story.
That's a true story.
That's very good.
That's great.
That's funny.
To write people off, you don't have to be a doctor, right? The doctor tries to do whatever he could to save the person. No, but that's why I gave that akdama. I know it's a very sticky subject because we never give up on anybody. What I'm saying is, in a case situation when you have an older person who has sickness for a long time, and I specified that no one ever came out of this. And all the stories you hear, you never have a person who had a sickness for 4 or 5 years, and then at the end he was very sick, and then all of a sudden he stood up and the whole sickness went away. You don't have that. You have a person, if something happened to him, and it was a month, 2 months, 3 months, and he pulls out of it. But someone who has a sickness that's going on for many years, doctor, you ever heard of something like that? No, I think you ever heard of such
a coma after X number of years.
It's different though. That's not the case we're talking about.
Right, but even a coma, right? A person's in a coma, right? Everything is working fine. He gets out of the coma. A person who had,
but he's not suffering.
Parkinson's. No. I'm talking that he's suffering. At the end, he's suffering.
Brain dead.
Person is brain dead. Yeah, these things people don't pull out of it. It never happened yet. That's the cases that I was talking about. But the reason why I stress that is I want to bring now a tshuva from Avos. Now, how about a person who is, you have someone who's on your chayla list, right? You say you're veinu, you add people on your chayla list, and a person who's sick for many, many years. And now he's already in a coma, let's say, he's in life support, and nothing's changed. Are you allowed to stop davening for him? You have a certain amount of people you can have on your list. You're not going to have a list every time someone gets sick. You're not keeping him on your list till he dies. Because someone could be in a coma for many years. Are you allowed to take him off your list? So listen, you know what? I'm going to stop davening for this person. Not that he should die. No, stop davening. Stop davening for him. So someone sent this child to Vosna. It says like this. He says, even if there's a drop of hope, of course, without the mitzvah l'spal, you definitely have to daven for him. If according to all days there's no hope for this person, we're talking about a person who it's impossible for him to get back to it. The need the cost of Rabbi and Dorim Memam Aleph the Muta Full Spala Cholim Sukin and Mitzvah Habash Yimois become Okaim ain't Dovers and Din Ushus Biyad Kol Odom This Ran is not given to anybody's hand to decide when to use this Ran. That a person should die. But God, Pesachim like view that was ever Pesachim. Pesachim don't bring it. The Rosa says we don't use this Ran so easily. The one that you asked about, even though they're not going to bear them a cold, they're not having more pain as they go on. The Ran is only talking about someone who has pain. So these people that you asked about, who says they're in pain? Maybe they're not in pain. Someone who's in a coma is usually not in pain. Since there is no hope, according to the Re'is Basar V'Dam, which is the regular doctors, it could be that it can't be mispal that you should daven, that you should die. That could be its mutter. To stop davening for somebody who is sick for such a long time, and it's not, to him to get out of it is not going to happen. Then says Avoza, could be that you could stop davening for him.
What if he's in pain?
No, even if he's not in pain. Even if he's not in pain.
You're davening for someone for numbers of years. You're not allowed to stop ever.
So that's
if he maintains his
his status. When he's davening, he should pull out of it, right?
So you always have to. You always have to.
So that was the question to the Moses. Moses says you're talking that you could stop davening for him.
No, I understand this. Let's say if someone is sick. Let's say he has a bad heart and he's very schwach.
Yeah.
Once you start, you always have to daven for the guy.
If you can help the person to stop davening for him is. So that's a very good.
That's a big question.
No, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. Yeah. 1 second, yeah.
And furthermore, what about someone we talked about earlier, like let's say a child who's severely autistic or mentally retarded? I mean, that's going to be usually a chronic, long-standing, lifelong situation. Should you even start davening for that person?
No, such a person who has a chronic sickness, in davening, they what? They should become a normal person. For that, you don't have to be mispal before. For that, you don't have to be mispal. A person is born with a chronic sickness, a retarded kid, let's say.
But you could daven.
You should not say Rafa'inu for him?
You could daven for that he,
right.
that he could become toilet trained, maybe.
Right, that's true.
Make it much easier on the family.
Right, that you could.
Okay.
Right, that you could be mispalful.
Specific thing.
Right, that you could be mispalful, 100%. Right, that's one thing.
In a chair, maybe, or something.
Right,
like that.
or you can walk and talk. These things could be mispalful.
Yeah.
And Mendel's question: if someone was sick, right, and now he's better, but he's not fully better.
That's not the guy.
But he's not fully better. Yeah. He still needs. When can you stop davening for somebody? When do you have the right to stop davening for somebody who was sick and he got healed, but he can still use it for shleima? That's a partially that I stop davening for the person.
I understand and respect that you can daven for specific things, but should that person's name be on a Rafa'inu list or not?
So that's not the question. This is a very, very complicated question. Who do you add to the list? And everyone should daven for him. If you're going to add so many people to the list between me and you, so what I always say is, a person who's going through a very hard time, operation or something, everyone should daven for him, and then you give the thing. When and to answer Mendel's question also, and then once he's stabilized, you can stop davening for him. If he's not a car of yours, if you're doing it because it was a tzibur davening together. It means any person who you gained a tzibur together to daven for the person, then it's obvious that as long as he pulled out of that stage, even though he's not 100% better, he can still use it for shleima, he's not mechuyev to continue davening for him. But someone who you're davening for, a relative or something, someone you have a shaykhus to, and you're davening for him and he can still use it for shleima, him we don't take off the list so easily. Because if you're not going to daven for him, who is going to daven for him? And if it feels so necessary, so that every person has to make his hashara, how important it is. I remember today is Martin Tzvi Finkel's yahrzeit.
Today is?
Today, Martin Tzvi Finkel's yahrzeit. And I remember when I was in yeshiva and he was sick. I and Rosh Hashanah's yahrzeit, and Vali Moshe Gross's yahrzeit today, the one the Chnas Sefer we had. So I remember I started davening for him, and I was in yeshiva. Years later, I left the yeshiva already, and I was still down. And I asked somebody, I want him to have a full shleima, but he has this sickness, and it's progressive, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So davening, of course, you should daven such a person because it won't get worse. You could daven that should stay stable and shouldn't get worse, and should be able to have kaichas to continue doing what he's doing. So that's the question. Do you take him off your list or not? Such a person, you take off your list. And the person told me 100% not. Don't take him off your list. If he was Rosh Yeshiva for so many years, you keep him on your list and taka till Adiyah Moisei. You know, you have to daven for the person. So he's a person who's a sympathetic person, and you daven for him because he's giving so much to Klal Yisrael. How about a person who's a relative? The same thing. Such people we don't take off the list so easily, unless he's in a matzav. That's where Vosna comes in.
So you're saying how important they are to us.
What shaykhs this? I mean, you can't go ahead and take every single chayla in the world daven for him, because you're not going to have kavanah for every single chayla. You don't know who they are even a lot of times. But you heard about him, and you heard of him.
By the way, that's another question I always had. Somebody says, there's a sign up davening for this person.
Right.
I've tried that, but it's like so hard to do.
It's hard, right? So we do is
the name.
It's just a name.
Just the name. So that's why it helps. So we do is we say Patulim, and we go on. To say add that now to your chayil list forever, it's not going to work. You say Patulim for him, and you move on. Or somebody who's from the community who's going through a hard time, operation, whatever. Everyone gets together. You say Tilim for him for a certain amount of time. He's on his verge to get better. He's not 100% better. Then stop saying Tilim for him. Yechidim, his close friend, will still say Tilim for him. Relatives will still say Tilim for him. It has to be something that's manageable, that a person understands, that, like you were saying, he has a hagish to keep on diving. Just to say the words and not to mean anything is worthless. But so that was talking about the case like I'm listening to Svi Finkel, where people daven that he should still stay. For there's a lot to daven for, because it shouldn't get worse, and he's. But I'm talking about his tshuva is a person who is already over a bottle, as I say. He's already lying in bed for many years, he's not accomplishing anything. So do I start to keep on davening for him, or can I take him off my list? So if Vosna gives a heter, then you can't daven Shayimais. He's very against that. But to take him off your list, that you could do. Everyone should ask their rabbi when it comes to the situation, but this is the klolim, it's a very hard klal. People always feel guilty. You say, tell somebody, then you stop. People always feel guilty.